This is Rock Nation, pledge your allegiance.
We gon' run this town.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you, Rita?
I'm well, thank you. And thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to have you up here. And stuff I wanted to bring you on and kind of do an interview and let everybody know who you are.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And kind of tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
Sure. Um, so my name is Rita Gigante, and I lived half my life in New York, half my life in New Jersey. Um, I am a psychic medium, healer, spiritual mentor, and I also am an author. So I wrote my story, The Godfather's Daughter. Um, what else? I grew up in a very, very multifaceted life, I want to say, given what my father did for a living. He was the head of the Genovese crime family in Manhattan, but he was also the head of the commission. And so I did not realize who my dad was until I was about 16 years old. I knew he was important. I knew people listened to him. I knew he would give orders, but I did not know what that all meant. I grew up with a lot of anxiety and panic attacks because I was born an empath, which meant my energy was very sensitive. And I was picking up all kinds of things around my family that I didn't understand. And that was giving me a lot of anxiety. Um, but here I am today, and I came through it, and now I'm thriving. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. So what
yeah.
was it like? You grew up over on Sullivan Street?
Yeah, Sullivan Street in the West Village. We were in a four-room apartment. Actually, I was born in the city, but around 6 months old, we ended up moving to Jersey. Um, but now it's like when I look back then, I felt like I was living, and I was living two lives. So I would go visit my dad in the city, um, at least 3 times a week. So I was there a lot. I didn't really like being there because of the energy, but I loved my grandmother, so we would go and visit, and we'd be there every Sunday for Sunday dinner. And then we would be home, in Jersey the rest of the time. And my dad lived with us for about a year when we moved out here when I was 6 months old, and then he moved back with my grandmother. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for the family to have to do the back and forth thing, but we got through it. We did it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Um, I couldn't imagine growing up in that type of environment. Um, I always found your story kind of interesting and always found the stories of those who, grew up in the close lifestyle of real powerful figures in the.
Yeah. I don't think people realize how it affects the family. I think they sensationalize it. They make it sound really glamorous and all of that, but they don't really understand what goes on behind the scenes and how it affects everybody in the life, especially when there's children. So this was a lot to deal with, a lot to get through, and I'm the youngest in my family, and I came about 10 years after my brother, who was the one above me, and my sisters and I about 15, 16 years apart. So they actually had a different life with my dad than I had. You know,
Yeah,
he was well on his way by the time I was born, and then by the time I realized who he was, yeah, he was well on his way to being who he was supposed to be in this life. So, but again, you know, you witness things, you see things, you hear things, you know things, but you don't know what you know, and that created a lot of anxiety for me. Um, you know, growing up in the house. So, and in my grandmother's apartment, you know, everything was dark. The shades were closed. The TV and the radio were on most of the time, but the phone was off the hook. It was never on the hook. So when I was there anyway. So like these are all things you see, and you know, you see all these men coming in and sitting down around my grandmother's table, you know, passing notes back and forth and whispers and this and that, and you're taking it all in, but you're like, what is happening? What is going on? You know?
yeah,
So yeah, this was not an easy thing for a child that was born an empath, that had psychic abilities that you know, the family couldn't understand and I didn't understand, and I was picking up stuff all over the place. You know. I'm sorry, honey, I can't hear you. I don't know if the mic went out or
can you hear me?
now I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was saying that, the life is so glamorized in the movies and stuff like that, but the side of it that people don't understand is the pain that people go through, in the family life of, the figures such as your dad, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, some people may, even in those families, some people may love that life, but for me, it was so far removed from who I was. Yet I had this deep connection with spirit, and so I was very. I mean, I loved my dad, and there were so many sides to him, sides that I had to actually look at and connect with in order to truly understand who he was, not just as that icon that everybody, you know, made him out to be, but he was a generous soul. He was when I was ill, he was very good with helping me through that. And um, as a child, as a small child, he had fantastic hands that, you know, he would rub my back, and he would actually be able to put me to sleep. These are memories that I hold very dear to me, because these are the pieces of him that nobody knows about. The other piece is that he was very generous with the elderly and the people in the neighborhood who needed food or their rent paid, or you know, things like that. And I have so many stories from other people that were either in jail with him or on the outside that loved him, you know, just for who he was, not necessarily that he was the head of a crime family, or you know, that he did that for a living. He was just well loved or well liked. He was very charismatic, and these were all parts of him that I had to look at when it came time for me to forgive him and my mother and everything that went on, all the traumas that I experienced. So I'm grateful for all of it. I wouldn't be who I am today without experiencing all that I did with him and my mom and the family.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we have somebody here. It says, you know, first of all, Christmas blessings to you, Rita, and your uncle. God bless his soul. Was my parish priest, Father Louis Gigante. I don't want
Wow.
to botch that name in the Bronx
Saint,
in 1960s.
yeah, Athenius,
Yeah,
Bronx, 1960s. Wow. Well, thank you
yeah,
so much. I appreciate that. And many blessings, Christmas blessings, and a blessed new year to you and your family. Lovely. What a great shout out that is. Yeah. Wow. I
I
love
just
that.
want to note,
Yeah, go ahead,
sorry,
honey.
I just wanted to note that there's 400 people in here. There's not really 400 people in here. There's people in here accusing me of buying bots, so I guess they bought bots for me. So don't pay attention to that number. I don't know why
Oh,
somebody would do that, but
it's all good on it. I can't even see numbers to be honest with you. So
okay, yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
don't pay much attention to them. Well, there's probably 50 to 100 people in here. I don't know why somebody would do that, but just trying to sabotage the interview. You got a great story and people want to try to mess with it. But
Yeah.
my
That's
question for you would be, I understand your father definitely walked the streets and played the crazy part to ignore indictments, but once the front door shut and he walked inside of it, did he carry that in the house, or was that like,
no,
did
there
it
were
end at the front door?
yeah, I mean he would take down his guard, but it wouldn't be for long because when you're in, let's call it costume, right? When you're in costume that long, you become the part. And there were parts of him that, yes, the guard would be let down and he would be able to have some, uh, quality time with my mom. And he loved to laugh. He could light up a room with his smile. So, and I was one that could make him laugh, which I enjoyed. And so when, just sitting with him and watching him smile, or, um, maybe he'd be playing cards with my mom and me, or, anything like that, it was such a joy because I could see, like I would say in my head, I would say, oh, there's my dad. Like, there's my dad. Like that's really who he is. And then he
Yeah.
would, if someone came to visit him or whatever, especially a doctor, he would go right back into, his routine. And sometimes he would even say things out loud if he thought people were listening, that sounded off, just to keep up the role play. But yeah, there were pieces of him that I could see that I was like, okay, there's the real dad.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's really interesting. How was he around Christmas time? Was he like a big Christmas celebrator, or, you know, what was holidays like in your guys' house?
So the holidays, I know when my brothers and sisters were young, before me, the holidays were great. He really, enjoyed and loved. Like, he got, let's just say for Easter, he got like my sisters like a real bunnies. You know what I mean? And or
Okay.
he brought them home. And um but as things progressed, it became much harder because he had another family. He had actually three families: the family in the street, and then he had another woman that he had children with. And so it became increasingly difficult. He would have to split his time, and so it would be like, okay, we go Christmas Eve, and we were told, okay, get out by a certain time, and nobody understood it until we were told, like, this is what it is, you know? And
Yeah.
so that was the sad part of it. And then my grandmother was left alone sometimes, and that was hurtful as well. So as time went on, it got harder, because there was only X amount of time that we had, and then we were gone, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely understand that. I always found it kind of interesting. Can you kind of describe how like the social club was back in the day? Like I heard there was like pinball machines in there and,
There,
you
there
know,
was there was a TV, there was a bar, there was a table and chair, a couple of tables and chairs, and it actually looked much bigger than when I walk in it today. There was a recliner, I remember, and the TV was, up. Uh, it was hanging, the TV. It was dirty, it was dingy, it was, um, the smoke, because they smoked all the time, so everything it was just smoke filled. There was a refrigerator with, Manhattan specials and cokes and pastries sometimes that we would go in and the kids, like me and my cousins, we would go in there and hang out when nobody was there. And then sometimes my dad took me in there, and I watched him play pinochle, with people, which was really cool and interesting. And I never haven't even learned the game yet. I really, really would love to learn the game. So it wasn't anything extravagant at all. Nothing was extravagant. Not my grandmother's apartments, not where he worked out of. Um, it was just his, that was his way. He was not flashy. He was very low key.
Yeah. And do you think he kind of regretted that
Regretted what, honey?
for the top, not, doing the most, going out, all that kind of keeping a low profile and keeping like a insane ploy going to avoid indictments, and then he eventually got indicted anyways. And then
Yes.
you have other gangsters who were in the spotlight pretty well and enjoyed every minute to the minute.
Yeah, I think in I think for him, he felt like that worked the best for him. And also too, like once you decide that that's what you're going to do, then that's what you do. Because you
Yeah.
can't fake it for that long and then say, oh, I'm going to enjoy my life now. Like he had to make a decision, and that's what he did. I mean, honestly, in that respect, he was brilliant in a way. Um, and yet I sometimes I think to myself, didn't it draw attention anyway?
Yeah.
But he was so strict about no phones, whispers, and you never could mention his name, and all of that. So it wasn't just that piece, but it was other things that were in place that he put in place to make sure he could, you know he I don't know if he was a traveler anyway. I have to be honest with you, he hated to fly. So he went on his honeymoon with my mother for a month. They went to Florida. They came back, he never left, until he had to get on a
Yeah.
plane and go to a jail. He never left. So I don't know if he was even, one of those people that like to travel. But then again, once he got involved and he was in and that was it, there he knew there was not much he can do, you know.
Yeah.
Where was he going? So he got used to it, and he enjoyed the power for sure. Um, was never really about so much money because he was really good at making money and then losing it and making it right back. So it wasn't like he wasn't concerned about that more than he was that he liked having the power, you know?
Right. The power is more important.
Yeah, to him it was. To him it was.
Yeah. So you guys didn't have like family vacations because he had to keep up with appearances.
Yeah, no, I mean, he sent my mother away with my siblings, but there was never where they went, he went with them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I never thought of that portion of it. That's pretty interesting. So have you ever, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Have you ever witnessed your father in action or seen him have like a quote unquote gangster moment with somebody or
Um, I watched him at 5 years old, which he didn't realize was happening, because I was hidden underneath my grandmother's dining room table, and I was playing, like 5 year olds do, and there was Italian music in the background, and it was loud, and the TV was on, and I was underneath the table, and I was playing, and my grandmother and my mother went upstairs for a minute to visit a friend, and nobody ever, like back then, you didn't think, oh, something was going to happen, or um, somebody would try to do anything to me. It just wasn't like that. So if they left the room for a minute and they went into the front, or it wasn't unusual that that would happen, you know. So when he came in, I heard the ruckus, I heard the voices. I didn't hear his yet, but I heard other men, and like a struggle, some type of struggle. And I remember, you know, this. I remember hearing the punch, like somebody got punched, and this man hit the floor, and I watched. Um, I watched him get hit over and over again, like the pumping of the hand hitting his face. And I realized it was my dad only because he had his pinky ring on. And I knew what that was. And then the blood started to trickle towards me. And so I backed up and I just held, like, you know, my legs against my chest, and I was shaking, but I knew I should not open my mouth in that moment. And so I, at any time, like a kid at that age witnesses something like this, they usually go into some kind of shock, right? Because they know they can't open their mouths. Um, so the last thing I heard was, "Don't ever fucking disrespect me again." And he stepped on his face, and that's how I knew for sure that it was him. Like even more than the ring, because you know, a lot of men from that time wore that kind of ring, a pinky ring, and so I was sure in that moment. But it was such a like a grave whisper, and then he said to whoever else was there, "Get him out of here." Um, and that was it. That solidified like why I started having panic and anxiety attacks, and why I didn't want to go to school, because I felt like somehow I had to stay home and protect my mother. So I was afraid of him for a long time until I saw other sides of him that was soft and, you know, but I buried that. I didn't even remember that incident until I almost finished writing my book, and I had a flashback as I was writing.
Okay.
So that set the stage for the trauma for me going into my childhood, you know, my teens, my adulthood, finding out who he is. Yeah. So I had to do a lot of work on myself to clear and become who I am today.
Oh, let's see here. And this is your book here.
Yes, it is.
Correct. Okay. So The Godfather's Daughter. And where can people go to purchase that at?
They can go to Amazon because it's on Amazon, or they can go to my
Okay.
website, ritagigante.net, and they can purchase a signed copy if they'd like.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
RitaGigante.net.
Yep.
Purchase an autographed copy. So I'm gonna drop your link for that in the chat. If anybody
Great.
who's watching, oh, okay, Texas Granny, I already did. Thank you very much, Texas Granny. Um, yeah, she drops your link in there. If anybody who's listening to the replay wants to come to the live chat and click on that link, go to ritagigante.net and check it out. And what's the book about? Is it your biography or is
It's
it
my memoir. Yeah, it's my memoir. It's
okay?
how I came through, you know, growing up in the family and how I became who I am today.
In the corner as well, right?
I'm sorry, hon?
I said, and that's a picture of you on the cover. Is that
Yes,
you or is that just somebody?
that's
Okay.
me. There are other pictures in the book as well, but that's me receiving communion. And it's
Yeah.
interesting. I made that cover because you see, it looks like a cross on the
Yeah.
cover.
Yeah.
That wasn't on purpose. That was like that's just how it came out. It is the strangest
Wow.
thing. But yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. So, I listened to a few of your interviews before, and I found it pretty. Can you tell us the story behind when you went to come out to your parents
Oh yeah, that was a big
and
one.
yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, because I was about 19, and you know, I was tired of lying. I was tired of, there was so many lies in my home because of everything that was going on. I mean, at 19, I know. At 19, you're playing the game too. You're having to lie and keep secrets and all that. And I just didn't want to do it. I was getting physically ill because of it, and because I wasn't really living my truth. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna, I'm gonna, I'm gonna come out. Like I'm gonna go to my mom and dad. And he was visiting at my house in Jersey, and so I got the courage to walk up the stairs. I'm sweating like an animal, and my palms are like sweating, and I'm just so petrified to do it. But I'm like, I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to be able to clear this for myself. And well, I knocked on the door, and they said, come in. And I sat down, and I said, listen, I really have to tell you guys something. And they were like, yeah, of course, whatever, you can tell us anything. And I thought, oh, all right, in my head. And then I just kind of like blurted out, like, I like women. And my mother immediately looked at my father because she didn't know what to do. Now, parents know their children, right? This was no big surprise. The surprise was I actually opened up my mouth about it. Okay. But this was
Yeah.
not a surprise for mom and dad. So she was looking to him, deferring to him to see how he would handle it. And in a very, very loving voice, he says, it's okay, Ree. He says, you're just going through a phase. All kids go through phases. You're just going through a phase, and you'll be over it. And then, you'll get married and have kids and blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, oh God, I'm in trouble. Like, I knew right then and there, if I could have taken those words back, I would have, and I would have just said, oh, and I can't even remember what I was going to say, but I didn't. And my mother looked at me and she goes, it's okay. It's okay. She was trying to, but the blood just drained from me because I know I would have felt better if he got up and smacked me, because that would have been my dad. uh, that would have been the truth. Like, he would have been, angry or upset or um, scared even, and he would react that way. But for him to react the way he reacted, so unlike him, so like, you know, uh, wanting to make me know it was okay. But of course, saying to me at the end, and I really don't want you hanging out with your friends anymore, like your girlfriend. So I know, like, that was like, yeah, I said that you're probably right. It's just a phase, blah, blah, blah. And I just got up and I left. And I went in my room and I cried. And I didn't come back out until I was 24.
Wow.
And I came out to my mother and I said to her, I don't care what you do with the information, but this is it. I can't live like this, you know? And she loved me. She hugged me. She kissed me. She goes, Rhea, I know. She says, I was more afraid of someone hurting you, like hate, like people who don't like, um, gays or lesbians. And she was also afraid for my soul because I was raised Catholic. And these are the things that, they would teach you that were that were not right. They would say that this was a sin, and she was afraid for my soul. And um, I made peace with God. I made peace with myself. I no longer follow any religion. I am spiritual. I do believe in a higher power. I call it love. It doesn't matter what you call it, but that's where I'm at. At this point in my life.
Yeah. Now, what would you think about somebody?
I lost you again, hon. You cut off it. What would you think about somebody? Still can't hear you. Not sure what's happening. I didn't touch anything on my end, so. Can you hear me? Actually, I even lost your video. Like your face was up here, but I don't see that either anymore. So, let me tell you a little bit about maybe my work. I do a lot of healings and psychic medium stuff, and I help people connect to their higher self. I help people all over the world that have issues connecting to family or having problems being able to speak to family about certain things in their life. Um, be, they come asking for how they can connect to their own truth, how they can have the courage and be brave enough to stand up for themselves in a family that maybe has suppressed them. And it was like that for me. I was suppressed very early on in the life. And so the work that I do today is very gratifying for me because anybody I could help reach that point. I mean, they're doing it, they do the work. I'm only facilitating and helping them get there, but they're definitely doing it. And it's just so gratifying to watch the shift in people as I work with them. And some people work with me one on one for, on a weekly basis, some on a monthly basis, some once a year. It really depends on what they need. But it's interesting because I had to hold secrets my whole life. And then when I came out and I decided I didn't want to carry any more secrets, I ended up becoming the secret keeper for others. People tell me their deepest, darkest times of their lives. And of course, I am one of those that will keep those secrets because that's just who I am. But it's interesting how it came out in my work in a positive way.
Yeah, I
So
think that's very
I'm
interesting.
so sorry that I can't hear you, but I did want to give a little bit of a background. Oh, are you there?
Yep.
I see your
Yeah,
picture
I've been
now.
back. I just wanted to let
Still
you.
can't
I
hear
just wanted
you
to let
though,
you finish. I lost
so I'm
connection.
not sure what's happening.
Hmm.
I really wanted to answer your question.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I was hoping others too would have questions.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I'm sorry, honey, I can't hear you.
What about now?
I see it says I'm in the show. Everyone can see and hear me. I just
Yep.
can't hear you.
Okay, we can all hear you. Hmm. Sounds like some technical difficulties with StreamYard. I don't understand what's going on. All right. Oh, she's probably gonna leave and come right back. Yeah, I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. I don't know what's going on. I lost connection there briefly from StreamYard. Had to come back in. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay.
I was trying to take up some airtime here just by describing a little bit about what I do, but
Yeah, I
I
appreciate that. I think something was going on with StreamYard itself because it
oh,
knocked
okay.
me out for a second and I had to come back in. So
Okay,
sometimes it does do that.
okay. Interesting. I didn't realize that. My first time doing StreamYard, so I got you.
Yeah,
Okay, so you
yeah,
were
I
going to ask
appreciate
a
it.
question.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you what there's somebody on here who uses voodoo dolls to go after people. And as a spiritual person, I was just wondering what your thoughts on that was.
Um, yeah, so I don't have any connection to that at all.
Yeah,
I don't. It's it's it doesn't. How can I put it? It's just not something I feel like a Ouija board. I'm not. I don't feel connected to that,
right.
or like that. And I just choose to work with spirit and light and love. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it pretty odd. Let me go to my email here because I had received a bunch of questions from you or for you.
Okay.
Let's see here. When was the first time that you noticed that you had a gift?
Oh God, I didn't know it was a gift, but I noticed that I was very perceptive at probably 7 years old. By the time I was 10, I knew things I didn't know how I knew. That's called claircognizant. So I was born clairsentient and claircognizant, which means I could feel everything and I know things that I don't know how I know. The clairvoyant and clairaudient came much later in life, which means I could see clairvoyant and I could hear clairaudient. And sometimes I could smell things. Um, Sometimes there's a smell, clairalience, it's called. So these were all gifts that came to me throughout my life as I cleared my own energy, as I cleared the trauma, more gifts came. When I realized I was a medium, wasn't until my dad died. So, and that's when he came to me for the first time. And then I realized I can do that work. And that was in 2005.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's been a lifetime of learning and harnessing the gifts that I have.
Yeah. Let's see here. And another one. Uh, Hello, Rita. How are you? I was wondering if you knew what the Powerball numbers are.
I get this all the time. No, if I knew that, I would share it with the world so everybody could win.
There we
Because
go.
yeah.
It's awesome. Let's see here. Um, at at what age were you when you realized that you liked women and not men?
Yeah. It's probably about mm, eight, 8 years old, I would say.
About eight. Okay.
Yeah, about 8 years old.
I'm just gonna I'm just gonna try to shoot through these a little bit that way. We can
Sure.
kind of I can get to most of them. If you have a short answer, you're more than welcome to give as long of an answer as you want. And
I did want to say one more thing about the Powerball. Uh,
yeah,
people have to people have to understand that they need to be ready for something like that. Like you you need to be able to step into a frequency or an energy that brings you that. Okay, that's how people win. Um, and so if they're ready and they're aligned with that energy and that abundance and that prosperity, then they will hit. They'll win the lottery. So, and that's not something you just do automatically. Like that's something you prepare for. So I just wanted to make it as a side note because it's not just luck that brings money to you.
yeah.
Anyway,
Okay. Let's see. Have you been back to the social club or your apartment since, you moved out and left that life behind? And how has the neighborhood changed?
so I've been back to both. One, my dad's business place, this Triangle Social Club, is now a organic tea and spice shop, and I have to tell you, it's amazing. Amazing, amazing. The energy in there is incredible. It took them, they were telling me, it took them days and days to be able to get the smoke off the windows to make
Oh,
to
wow.
so that you could see in. I could imagine because they were blacked out, the windows completely blacked out. But there's a mural that's still there that a woman painted for my father, and it still remains there. And there's a couple of things that still remain there that they kept, which was lovely. But the shop itself is incredible. I buy a lot of stuff from there when I go in. My grandmother's apartment, I was there not too long ago. And it's funny because I didn't think I would even get into the apartment, but there was a fire. Like 2 minutes after I arrived there was a fire, and it was that apartment. And I met the girl who lives there now, and she allowed me to go into the apartment. And oh my God, what an incredible experience that was to see uh, if there were any differences. The bathroom was the same. The kitchen looked smaller than it did when I was a kid, but everything looked the same. The only difference was they blocked off, like they separated the living room and the dining room. So they made two different rooms in it, and it looked smaller at that point. But everything pretty much looked the same, you know. So the neighborhood has changed. I mean, changed so much. There's very few things left that I say, oh, when I go down there, I'm like, oh, this is great. And that's mostly food stores, either bakeries or pizza stores, or where I get fresh pasta from, called Raffetto's. So that those things still remain, but for the majority of it is changed so much, so much.
Yeah. Let's see. Somebody in the chat's asking, does she think when someone tells her their deepest secrets, do they find a sense of relief? Is it cleansing? Is it hard to trust someone with your deepest secrets or shame?
100%, it's a cleanse. I mean, it's kind of like what happened with me when I first went to therapy. I put myself in therapy at 19, and the minute I took me forever to say it, but the minute I opened up my mouth and started to talk, it was like 10 tons was lifted off of me. And as time went on, I wanted to help others feel that. And so, I cultivated the energy enough where people just felt they could, get it off their chest and express it. And what it did was it shifted them in that moment, to be able to move forward. Because the minute they let it out, it's like, well, can't take it back now. So now, we're gonna deal with it. But absolutely 100% a cleanse.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Somebody wants to know, when is the last time that you spoke with your father,
Oh,
and what was the conversation?
I speak with him all the time, and it really depends on what's going on in the life. Like, sometimes he will come through for other uh, clients of mine if he feels someone needs help or anything. Because once he passed, he asked if he could sign on with me and help others so that it mitigates his karma in the life. And I said, absolutely. And so, ever since that moment, if there are people that come to me that their family members were in the life, or that maybe they were looking to go into the life or anything like that, he's right there and he's working with us. For me, it'll be like if I'm having one of those days where I'm like, I need some guidance, and I just look up and I go, okay, I need you now. Like, you need to come. And he'll just step into my energy and he'll start talking to me and kind of working things out with me. He cannot take my lessons away from me, but he will guide me. And that was just 2 days ago. I was talking to him. So, and I was asking him about the work that I'm going to be doing in January. And I just asked for his opinion, him and my mother, actually. So it was a lovely conversation. And that's the thing. I love teaching people how to connect to their loved ones. It's not that. they can't do it. Everybody has a gift. They can do it. It's that people don't think they're doing it right, or they think only somebody like me can bring them through. And their loved ones would prefer to speak to them. I mean, they do come through to me, but they would much prefer to speak to them than me, obviously.
Yeah. Now, if somebody felt like they trusted you with, you know, trying to reach a family member, how would they get a hold of you to do that?
Yeah, right on
I,
my website. Right on my
okay.
website, ritagigante.net, and they can sign up. At this moment, I do a lot. So I changed a couple of things because I was having, I was seamlessly being able to go into the psychic and mediumship space, which the psychic means we talk about your life and you ask questions about it, but the mediumship is about we talk to your loved ones or anybody on the other side. So I can kind of bob and weave in those two energies simultaneously, on top of if I had to do a healing, even if it's distance, I was doing it. So it doesn't matter what you sign up for, you get it all in one shot anyway. The only difference is you could do a half hour or 45 minutes.
Okay. So you charge by half hour or 45 minutes for something like that.
Exactly. I can't do more than that
Okay.
because it's too much on my energy.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Let's see here. Now, somebody wants to know if Rita could say something to her father, what would it be? Like, say something to him in person if he was still here. What would, what would you say or ask him, I guess, is what the question is.
Yeah, I would immediately, I would say to him, thank you. Because without you and mom and everybody else, I wouldn't be who I am today. And then I'd want to hug him if he was standing in front of me, and I would just want to be in his presence and tell him I love him.
Wow. Wow. Let's see here. I think there was one in the chat. Was she familiar with the other women in her father's life? Also, is she close with her siblings?
So I am familiar with the other woman and the children. At one point, we actually did meet, but we don't speak today. They basically, especially it was before the book, but even the book itself coming out just disconnected everything. I'm very close to my two sisters, my two older sisters. Um, my biological, not half, but my sisters, Yolanda and Roseanne, and I don't see one of my brothers, but I do talk to my other brother when they're hardly around. They have their own lives that they're dealing with, and so every so often I'll get him on the phone or uh, you know yeah, that's really it. My sisters are really the closest to me.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great answer there. Let's see. Um, let's look for another question. I had quite a bit of them for you, actually.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah. Did you ever receive special treatment because of your last name or somebody knew who you were or your father was?
No, I did not, and I liked it that way because I was not one of those people that would throw a name around. Like, listen, he would say to me, "Go pick up the meat at the butcher." So they knew who we were, right? So I'd say, "I'm here for my grandmother Yolanda," and oh, how's she doing? They loved her. So things like that, but I would never ever use the name to get anywhere or do anything. Um, it's not my way. It's just not my. It actually wasn't the way of anybody in my family. We were taught to be humble and respectful and all of that. So The people who did know, did they treat us well? Yes, of course, they did. But they were good people, you know. They were good people. Sometimes, you don't know if people like you because they think, oh, there's an infamous name attached to you, or they think you got all this money in the world, and you know. But that's the funny part. I live like everybody else. I make my living. I don't have millions. Nobody was left millions, and I know that's hard for some people to believe, but that's just the truth of it. Um, and it served me because it also paved the way for me to know I could survive and thrive in this world, not to have things handed to me. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sure, did I get gifts? Yep, absolutely. Um, but to work for yourself, to make something of yourself, served me much better than to just get things handed to me.
Yeah,
Don't
it
get me wrong,
feels
I was
better to
spoiled as a kid. I was definitely spoiled as a kid. I mean, Christmas came and there were a ton of presents, but I wasn't that kid that asked for a lot either. If you gave me a bat and a ball and a drum set, I was happy because I
right.
was a little tomboy. So I didn't need dresses or dolls or anything like that. It wasn't important to me. So it was the little things, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, I know we got another one. I know we have another one. What do you feel like the direction of which New York City is going into now? What do
And
you feel like the direction of New York City? What do you feel about the direction that New York City is going into now? I'm guessing that's got to do with like everything being gentrified and
uh,
the old Italian slums are now $10,000 apartments and
listen,
stuff like that.
it's not the old neighborhood anymore the way we knew it. But it's like anything else in life, change is inevitable, so you either go with the flow and you hold your memories, to you, tight to you, and you revel in those beautiful memories that you had. But things change and progress is here, and we have to just accept that it's not a bad thing. What makes anything good or bad is perception, and um, how you can connect to people. Like if you're one of those people that judges, then it's not going to be a good thing, right? But if you're accepting of others and who they are, and what they stand for, then we can all get along. You know,
Yeah,
it's simple. It's so simple to be nice and kind to people because it doesn't cost anything. We don't know, and I'm really, really, um, the one thing I say all the time is you don't know anybody's circumstances. So to think that you could, judge someone unless you've walked that path. And even then, there's no room for judgment. So we just don't know what they've been through.
yeah, I agree. I feel that's pretty well. Let's see. We got one in the chat here. It says, w- wow, did you ever feel shame for what your father's profession was?
Shame. I wouldn't
A
call it.
shame.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it shame. Um, I think sometimes I would be. Um, it was two sides to it when, especially if he asked me to go for a walk with him, because he would get into costume with his bathrobe and slippers and mess his hair up and all that, and he'd be talking to a parking meter or a tree, and people would look. Most people that walk by would tip their hat or smile because they knew who he was. Other people would look at him like he was crazy. And so in that moment, all in one like breath, I would feel like, hey, who do you think you are? Like, that's my dad. And in the next breath, I want to put my head down and go, fuck, like I really don't want to be doing this, right? Just because, not even because I didn't want to walk with him, but it was like, for me, it was like making a mockery of people who were really ill, people who did have mental illness. So when he would check himself into the mental hospital, like when the FBI got close to him, that was the hardest thing for me because number one, I'm an empath and I'm walking into, a facility that houses people who are really sick, right? And I would be able to pick up that energy because he was on the third floor with everybody who was like with schizophrenia and bipolar and all that. So it was very, very difficult to navigate doing that. And then I felt like, he was making a mockery of these people that were really ill. And it just, I think that was the hardest thing for me, and I had to really it took me a minute to get past that. I know why he did it. I understand. But it just didn't feel good to me. Didn't feel right.
Yeah. Let's see here. Um, with the FBI and constantly investigating your father, did you ever have like a sky is falling moment when it came to the FBI investigating your dad?
There was always this feeling of the shoe was going to drop. Always. Um,
Okay.
so when it finally did, there was like, oh my God. And then there was like a relief because you're not thinking about it anymore. It happening. It just happened now, you know? So it's funny. It's there's two sides to that coin. But yeah, of course. I mean, I even had to get, even after everything was done and he passed and all that, there was still moments of, feeling like the shoe was going to drop. And so I had to really work through that piece because you're like hyper vigilant for so long, and then all of a sudden it's done, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on there. So let's see here. With it being the holiday season, what's one thing that you'd like to tell to the people that are listening to this? What's something inspirational that maybe you can guide somebody who's having a rough day or something like that and kind of push them in the right direction? What's something that you'd like to say to the audience?
I would really love to just tell you that you have no idea how much you are loved, that you have guidance and connection all the time in the spirit world that you can connect to. For me, when I'm in a bad way, I'm having a bad day, I go right into gratitude because gratitude changes the energy immediately. I start thinking of what I'm grateful for, not so much of what's going on in that moment that creates the anxiety for me. And that will get me out of it very quickly. Um, the other thing I would say is know that you are powerful. Um, and I don't mean powerful over someone, I mean that you are empowered more than you know. And so everyone can move past um, the traumas in their lives if they want to. And that's really the key. Someone has to want to not be a victim in this world. If you choose not to be, then I promise you, you can get to the other side of it.
Yeah. What was one of your dad's favorite restaurants in the city or favorite food to eat?
So again, he was, when he was younger, before they told him, he had a heart condition and he had to stop eating like shit, he would eat everything from steak to hot dogs to whatever he wanted, right? Then he went on a very strict diet. And so it became um, salmon, it became salads. He would only eat what my mother would make or one of the guys if they were, if they were good with food. Because a lot of men in the Italian culture are very good cooks. And so, and there would be very few places that he would get something from as far as food went. So by the time I was old enough to experience what he liked and what he didn't like. He was already full on, like committed to a certain diet where he lost all his weight, and his heart was in much better shape by then. So yeah, and he was a creature of habit, so he would eat the same stuff a lot of times. You know, maybe there were a half a dozen things that he would eat on a daily basis. You know, rotate them during the week, and yeah, that would be it. Yeah, but he loved steak, like buffalo. He loved salmon. He loved. So, yeah,
Wow, very interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, some of the questions that came in were pretty cool. Let's
Mm.
see here. So I usually like to keep the interviews to around an hour, so I think we'll go ahead and end here. If you want to plug some of your projects and some stuff that you're doing, also you have a YouTube channel.
I do.
If the viewers would like to go over and subscribe to you,
Hmm.
if you could drop what your name is on YouTube and stuff like that, so people can kind of go over there and sub to you.
Yeah, it's just
And
my name. They can go on. They'll find me if they just punch it right in.
okay, Rita Gigante on YouTube.
Yep.
And what kind of stuff do you do over there on your channel?
Yeah, so I have a Patreon group that I work with every Monday night, and people sign up, and I teach. So a lot of that stuff is on there, and any other interviews that I do usually are on there.
Okay, all right. Well, hey, thank you very much for coming on and giving us some of your time and your story and stuff like that. And I really appreciate it. If there's something else you'd like to say before we end, feel free.
Well, I'd love to come back anytime, and I just want to wish everybody out there a very happy holiday season with their family, their friends, even their animals, and a prosperous, healthy new year.
Definitely. And I agree with that as well and second that as well. Thanks a lot for coming on here and giving us your time and stuff like that.
Sure.
Hopefully everybody goes over and subscribes to you. Somebody dropped your YouTube link in the chat there. So if you're
Thank you.
listening to the replay, it's Rita Gigante Psychic Medium 98 on YouTube. And go ahead and go to her website and check out the stuff that she's doing. It's pretty interesting stuff. So I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and end the show now.
Great.
And
Thank you
I'll
so
give you a call.
much. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Feel it coming in the air. Hear the screams from everywhere. Only thing that's on my mind is who's gonna run this town tonight.
Yeah, I say that we are. This is Rock Nation. Pledge your allegiance.
Who's gonna run this town? We gon' run this town.